Hello, I am Xarkun. This is World of Warships Legends. Today I've got a look at the new Tier VII Premium American Heavy Cruiser, USS Wichita. The Wichita is, of course, the reward ship for the still ongoing campaign, Lone Veteran. You see her here in my port. I'm going to go over my mod selection, the commander build briefly, and then some key stats before jumping into some gameplay. So you can see I've got Aiming Systems Mod 1, Propulsion, Concealment, and Main Battery Mod 3 in the 4th slot. That's the one that decreases the reload time. We've got Thomas Kincaid as our commander, Kuznetsov and Makawa as inspirations. Makawa I regard as a very good inspiration for this ship. It's got pretty strong concealment. I'm a little bit iffy on Kuznetsov, might change him out, but I kind of like the range. I think it's about perfect where it is. And then of course Kincaid comes with Ingenious, which is the main reason I'm using him. It increases the turret traverse speed on the turrets, which I think is incredibly value for this ship, especially considering I have the main battery mod 3 in the 4th slot. It also tells you how many enemies are targeting you, so that's nice. Now, as for the key stat, we've got the artillery. The Wichita has 9 203mm guns, same size as the Baltimore, the other Tier 7 American heavy cruiser. The Wichita's guns fire out to a range of 16.1 kilometers on this build compared to the Baltimore's 16.9 with the same build. The guns on the Wichita here, though, reload in 8.8 seconds as compared to 10.6 with the same build on Baltimore. Incredibly quick, almost like cruiser-esque. And they turn 180 degrees in 25.6 seconds compared with the Baltimore's 26.1 second 180 degree turn time, so a little bit quicker, but the reload time significantly quicker. As far as the HE shell damage goes, same maximum HE shell damage for both ships, same fire starting chance. The Baltimore, however, has AP shells that do 5,000 damage compared to the Wichita's AP shells, which do 4K. So about 1,000 less points of damage. That's not quite as far as the differences between the two ship sets of guns go. The Wichita's guns behave much more like one of the American light cruiser's guns. Not quite, but they're reminiscent of that, whereas the Baltimore is firing super heavy AP shells that have somewhat flatter trajectories, although, they still can shoot up pretty high. Anyway, with these stats out of the way, let's jump into some gameplay and look at the ship in action. We're going to be on Trident Domination mode in the Wichita, and I picked this game for a couple of reasons that will become evident. Let's talk about survivability on this ship right now, because you can see right off the bat in the lower left-hand quarter that the Wichita has 37,900 hit points compared to the Baltimore's 42,000. So it's got a little bit fewer hit points than the Baltimore, actually quite a significant amount. The armor values, at least on paper, are exactly the same. And I can tell you that the Wichita does appear to have that 26 or 27 millimeter bow armor. Not quite sure exactly what the value is. I want to say it's 26. But until we have an armor viewer in the game, we can't know for sure. One thing that is very clear, though, the bow armor is fully capable of bouncing the shells from battleships with 15-inch guns or 380mm guns, just like the Baltimore, so it can tank a fair amount, and we're going to see me doing that here in this game. I'll talk briefly about the rest of the stats here. This ship can achieve a speed of 34.5 knots on my build. The Baltimore is 33.5, so the Wichita 1 knot faster. Wichita turns in 680 meters, the turning circle that is, and the Baltimore 730, so this ship is somewhat sharper in the turn than the Baltimore. And the rudder shift time on the Wichita 5.5 seconds compared to the Baltimore's 6.4. Got a detectability range of 10.2 kilometers by sea in the Wichita, 10.3 in the Baltimore. Both are pretty stealthy cruisers, and I think that stealth helps them tremendously, which is why I like to use Mikawa as one of the inspirations. We've got the Tirpitz coming around the corner. We're going to start shooting HE at him, kind of trying to aim for his torpedo tubes. We're getting some decent damage, as you can see. The 200mm shells are, for the most part, penetrating the superstructure on the ship. We do end up hitting the torpedo tubes on, I think, what is that, the port side of the ship. We take them out permanently, which, of course, if the Tirpitz is going to continue to push forward, may alter his plans a little bit. And you can see as the Tirpitz shoots back at us, he appeared to be firing AP. We take minimal damage. Maybe one of the shells went through the superstructure of our ship for over-penetration damage, but, you know, we're not in any danger of sinking because of the return fire from the Tirpitz. The rest of his team, though, appears to be coming around the corner and charging into Alpha, so we are backing off. The Tirpitz is no longer aiming at us. We know that because we don't see him. We don't see a number targeting us on the indicator until now, although that's probably the Bismarck, who is 5 kilometers away from us. We've switched to the AP. We're going to see what that can do against a broadside battleship at close range. And it seems to me like the closer you are in this ship to broadside battleships, the more effective your AP will be. Doesn't seem to be quite like the Baltimore's AP at range, where you can get incredibly nasty plunging fire that can do citadels. It might be possible. I don't know. I've played about 10 games in this ship. Couldn't say for sure. But the AP, it's not... I don't think it's the same super heavy AP shells that the Baltimore has, although I do think it does include better penetration angles like the Baltimore. So there's that. Either way, the closer you are against battleships, the more effective it seems to be. And if you are close to a battleship and you have access to their broadside, then definitely shoot the AP at it. It'll give you quite a nice bit of damage. We are sort of resetting the situation here. The Bismarck has gone around the island. I believe the Tirpitz went down. I think we're comfortable with pushing up. Looking back, I think I was thinking the island was going to stay between me and the Bismarck for longer than it does end up doing, and you'll see that here in a second. For now, we're going to test the AP out against a broadside cruiser at a range of almost 10 kilometers. The first salvo does achieve 3 penetrations and 2 overpens for not a super fantastic result. The second salvo isn't much better. The Bismarck does come around the island, which is a little bit of a concern considering we're showing him broadside. So we're going to have to turn an angle toward him. We're going to shoot at the New Orleans, who is much closer. This time we land a Citadel, and the shot from the rear gun, finishes the New Orleans off. Taking another shot at that Algerie out there, not expecting a whole lot. We're going to turn our attention briefly to the Bismarck before he goes down. And now, the question is, do we pull out and continue to engage that Algerie, or do we sit inside of the cap and make sure we secure it? And of course, the correct answer is sit inside the cap and make sure we secure it. If we do, then it will be the only cap our team has. Unfortunately, there's another ship in here with us who either sailed out of the cap or got hit by enemy shells, so this is going to take a little bit longer now. pulling back on the throttle. We're in danger of exiting the cap, which wouldn't be great. We do really want to take this cap. The enemy holds no caps, and if we can get a 1 cap advantage over them, then, you know, that's better than nothing. Although we are up on ships, but as anybody who's played this game for, you know, a sufficient amount of time, wow, why am I tripping over my words so much? A sufficient amount of time knows, you know, things can and will go wrong in this game, and even though your team has a nice ship lead, that can quickly turn the other way, and it helps if you have caps secured. In any case, we were hit by one of the battleships out there, which reset our cap progress again. Doesn't seem like we're going to have much luck. I think it was actually that Nelson who was coming around the corner broadside. Nelson, not the most heavily armored battleship in the world, and we are able to take 7K off of him. These guns reloading in 8.8 seconds, I think that may make them the fastest 203mm guns at this tier for a cruiser. And, you know, with the excellent American AP, they can cause some carnage against battleships who don't angle. You gotta respect these guns if you are in a battleship. You have to make sure you're angling against them, especially in the Nelson, if you are in a battleship. Because if you don't, you know, I mean, we've taken a significant amount of hit points off that guy. He is starting to reverse now, and I think he is presenting more of an angle, so we're going to switch to HE now. The 14% fire chance isn't spectacular, but it definitely does the job, especially if you go with the main battery mod 3 to decrease the reload time. That certainly helps quite a bit. We have succeeded in lighting a fire on the Nelson. Again, not the most heavily armored ship, and these are 203mm guns, so the HE that hits him in the superstructure is probably going to penetrate for pretty good amounts of damage, too. Since these are bigger guns than the light cruiser caliber guns, I think you'll find that the HE shells tend to penetrate a lot more in the battleship superstructure, and maybe even on some of the upper hull or side armor of some battleships, as compared to, you know, the 152mm caliber, which is a light cruiser caliber. Those lighter shells tend to shatter a lot more on battleships and not do quite as much damage. The HE, of course, on this ship also has no problem ripping through destroyers. We're not going to see that in this game, although I do have a game with some enemy destroyers in it where I am able to use the radar, which is a 9-kilometer radar and has a 30-second duration, same as the Baltimore, so it's a pretty strong radar. It doesn't range out quite as far as the radar on something like the Chapayev, but very dangerous to destroyers nonetheless. And there's the end of the game. That's my look at the Wichita for you. Hope you enjoyed it. If so, give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you haven't done that already. 150 subs away from 1,000, so, you know, keep them coming, and we'll have something great going on. Thank you for all your support. I will see you next time. Goodbye.